Salve, discipuli. Alright, we're going to polish off lesson 39. Believe it or not, there's one more concept coming your way. Let's look at it in action, then I'll talk to you about what it is. So our first sentence here. First sentence, number 1. Spe donorum liberi boni erant. Alright, so what we're going to focus on here actually is this word spe, which is the word hope, but in this particular instance it's showing up in the ablative case. Alright, showing up in the ablative case. So the sentence basically says the liberi, that's the children, erant boni, the children were good. And then we have an ablative. Now, it's not going to make sense to translate this ablative in the normal way. We can't say the children were good by hope, from hope, with hope. Okay, those don't really work all that well. I mean, with hope might work a little bit, but it doesn't work all that well. So the question is, why were the children good? The children were good because of the hope of gifts. Okay? That's what's happening here. This is what's called an ablative of cause. An ablative of cause. It's telling you why something happened. The children were good because of the hope of gifts. Okay? So long story short, that ablative of cause just means that we need to be ready at times to translate ablatives because. Okay? We can already translate them by, with, from, in, than, all these possibilities. We have to add the possibility of because to our list, or more specifically, because of. Alright? Let's consider that for number 2. Alright, we got a pugna, timore, mortis, cucurat. Alright, just to color real quick, cucurat's our main verb. We've got a prepositional phrase of a pugna. Then we have an ablative of timora. Alright, mortis is in genitive. Alright, so basically, obviously timora here is going to be our ablative of cause. So he ran from the battle. And how are we going to translate the ablative of cause again? He ran from the battle because of a fear, mortis, of death. So he ran from the battle because of a fear of death. Alright, so because of the hope of gifts, because of a fear of death. Those are ablatives of cause. And again, if we try something else, it just won't work very well. He ran from the battle by fear of death, with fear of death, from fear of death. Those just don't work very well. Okay, because of works the best. Now, this ablative of cause can show up in a slightly different form. You might see this expression qua re. This is an ablative of cause. Okay, once again, just like timora and spe, this is an ablative of cause. The sentence basically says, the boy called the girl. Qua re, however, is asking a question. Okay? Qua, which means which, re, which means thing. So, because of which thing. Alright? Which is just a fancy way of saying why or for what reason. Okay? So you can translate qua re as why or for what reason. So why did the boy call the girl? For what reason did the boy call the girl? Alright? Literally because of which thing. And there's one more way this can manifest. Alright? Our last sentence has a main verb of erat in the first clause and dokuit in the second. And qua de causa technically is a prepositional phrase, but it's somewhat related to this ablative of cause up here. But this time it's in a prepositional phrase. De qua causa. Alright? They're somewhat related. So puer erat stultus. So puer stultus erat. So the boy was stupid. Alright? The boy was stupid. And then we're going to skip this for a second. The teacher did not teach him the Latin language. The boy was stupid. The teacher did not teach him the Latin language. Okay, quade causa is going to mean for which reason. Or you could translate it therefore. So quade causa, for which reason, or therefore. The boy was stupid, therefore the teacher did not teach him the Latin language. This is really the only possible good reason not to teach someone Latin, if they're stupid. Okay, so what do you need to take from this? You need to be aware that an ablative of cause exists. You'll note it's a naked ablative. There's no preposition on these. Okay? And when you see an ablative of cause, you're going to translate it because of. You should also be aware that qua re can kind of have a special meaning. All right? Because of which thing, or why, or for what reason. And then finally, recognize the phrase quade causa, which means for which reason or therefore. Okay? Alright, now, the last thing we need to do, and you should remember that the only reason not to teach someone Latin is because they're stupid. The last thing we're going to do is talk about the quiz that is coming up on Monday. So it's a quiz over lesson 39, which I would suggest is probably the hardest lesson you've had so far in Latin. Remember that vocabulary is on there, and it was a tough list. Your book is home with you at this point. I recommend you spend some time starting to learn this vocab. Learn it in a quiet environment, because when you take the quiz, it will be in a quiet environment. Alright, after vocab, we're going to need to understand the indirect statement. Now, I want you to make sure you know the following about it. Know that it starts with a head verb. Know that we have to translate the word that. Know that it's going to have what's called an accusative subject. And finally, know that it's going to have an infinitive verb. Alright? You need to know those three parts and where the that fits in. 1, 2, 3, and where the that fits in. That's an indirect statement. Obviously, you'll also have to translate an indirect statement or two. Okay? So after vocabulary, after I ask you questions about what an indirect statement looks like, you're going to have to translate a sentence. Alright, probably with an indirect statement in it. Okay? That's kind of a no-brainer. The other thing you need to know is how the ablative of cause works. And basically, you just have to pay attention to the things we just talked about. Alright, the fact that it's naked, has no preposition, and then keep track of how to translate it. Alright, which is basically as simple as because of. Okay? Obviously, the qua de causa, which we just looked at, and the qua re, you should remember that as well. So that's your quiz. A vocab section, questions about the structure of the indirect statement, sentence translation, and I might have another sentence in there or something with an ablative of cause as well. Okay? Alright, start studying your vocab now. The list is beastly hard. Wow, later.